Adept? Is that you? Ah, yes, I just got back this morning. Wait, you... you don't need to leave. I do want you here, though. I didn't exactly chase you away, did I? You need not be so afraid. It's okay. Um, just talk to me if you wish. I know it's been a long while since our last conversation, but I've never turned down speaking to you before. Have I? I didn't expect to see you either. I thought you were normally in the library during this hour. Ah, I see. I must have gotten the times mixed up then. Are you on your daily walks around the ground? Oh, well, I'm glad to see you continue this little habit of yours. Walks always help to clear my mind too. And the breeze is quite pleasing today, is it not? Indeed. It is good to counter the heavy summer air. Well, you are right. My clothes can be rather impractical at times. Your clothes are much more suited to this weather than my own, normally. Seia gets quite the curious weather patterns, but Clarus as a whole seems to be, well, constantly warm all year round, as I've learned. I practically melt through all the layers of my clothes for each of my visits. But I finally decide to do something smart and wear thinner clothes for once. Well, I'm not exactly suited to such heat, unlike you. Though, I suppose you'll be needing to get used to the cold in a few months. They're rather bitterly cold. But the first snow is always quite pretty. Have you ever experienced the winter months here? I see. Well, we'll definitely have to get you fitted for some new winter clothing. Yes, you may keep your own clothes. Like I've always said, wear whatever you want. But I do predict they'll be quite useless for the cold weather. Well, you'll always have new and fresh clothes from Clarus imported in. But do not come running to me if you're absolutely freezing and you've gone and done something silly again with your clothes. Oh, you remember, Adept. Don't go burning them again. If you don't want them, just give them to someone who needs them. But trust me, you'll want to keep the winter clothing. Oh, I know you won't. I'm sure you were reprimanded enough for that. I'm simply reminding you. I'm sure you won't do anything silly like that again. Now, You know, I do enjoy having you block the sun from my face and being my personal shade. But you can sit, you know. You really don't need to keep standing there awkwardly. There's a nice and open spot right next to me. Well, only if you don't mind getting a bit of dirt on your bottom, that is. Well? You know, you seem less tired now. Those awful dark circles aren't as prominent anymore. Well, it was certainly worrying, you know. You seem sick. Well, perhaps not from an illness, but your emotions do tend to influence how you are physically. Well, you weren't very motivated to do anything for a while. Remember? After the ball? You barely slept or ate. And you had rather poor health. I'm happy, though. After our conversation at dinner, you've slowly been draining again and, well, adjusting back into normal life again. Like these walks of yours. I'm glad that you've managed to make it a part of your day. It helps to channel out all that anger and frustration you have. Have you managed to get a little more sleep, though? Well, with time, I suppose you'll be getting more, hopefully. But that's good for now. It's important to try and get a little sleep, at least. It is simpler to say than to do. I know it all too well. Oh, yes, it has been a little while since we were last out here in the gardens, hasn't it? It was raining rather badly that night. A terrible idea to have danced out there, really. But I'm glad that we did. At least you weren't the one that caught the cold. Yes. Your body must be rather strong if you never catch any illnesses then. Well, good for you. Unfortunately, my poor human body isn't as strong as yours. Well, I wasn't down for too badly those weeks. Rather annoying still. Well, I had to get right back into work again. Morena doesn't suddenly shut down because I'm sickly. Although it would be nice if that happened. If everyone could take a little break. Yes. It's not bad at all to talk again. After so long. We haven't talked much at all. Not since our dinner. And after that, well, I've been away and... I felt like you needed some time for yourself as well. But I was gone for business as usual. And it's been extremely hectic, to be honest. There is much to do in every single region. We are in the midst of summer harvest, after all. And, well, yield is at a record low in Clarus, but that is to be expected, and we are making do and supplementing from other regions. And the academies have been of great help. Plenty of graduates have been sent out to provide relief to most of the country. Well, I've been plenty busy allocating and preparing the appropriate resources to distribute grain and other food, as well as getting ready for the second harvest coming in a few months. I was also in Morai for a little while, meeting with the Big Five. Oh, well, they're quite the interesting folk. A bit chaotic to work with, since they have such big and different personalities. But without their help, all of this would be impossible to do. We all rely very heavily upon the church. They have given me quite a lot of insight as well. But I was mainly there to discuss the Blight's damage with St. Seia. I had been round personally surveying the various villages in Clarus to see the progress with the damage. I took note of disease, the food shortage, crop damage, displaced villagers, blighted folk as well. All things you can read in the reports. Have you read the latest one? Well, Lacertus Swamp is still quite damaged by the recent blights. And they are having a difficult time recovering, since it was a major battlefront. Atticus has allocated more money toward the restoration of the area, and more mages have been sent by the academies to deal with the damage and to help with the cultivation of farmland. The saint will also be making her rounds to heal those afflicted and to purge the land, though I expect the Plecteri Knight to also join her. It is a bit more than regular students can handle, so the church will come in to take the bulk of work from there. Thankfully, it isn't as active anymore. Yes, Lange has sent a small number of troops to protect the villagers, till St. Seia can make her way there. It has been rather difficult, as you're fully aware now. I hope the various documents have been helpful to you. Indeed. 200 pages worth is a bit to sift through every few days, but there is quite a bit to know. Take your time with them, and don't rush through the details. I've got to look through those very reports every single night, over and over again, just so Vittoria, Lange, and I can properly do our jobs and attend to matters effectively. Delegation is strangely a little harder than you'd expect it to be. Although, that's really only a simple explanation of what I've got to do. You'll see what I mean soon enough when you begin to work on tasks. It is a bit much, but that is why I'm starting you off slow, with smaller tasks. You need to build a foundation of experience first, but you're not alone in this, and there are people to guide you along the way if you need help. You can take your time. There is plenty. Though, you will definitely be begging for a break. It is horribly tiring, but worth it. Well, I am on my break. Hence why I am here. Sitting in the dirt and leaves is my oh-so-coveted break. It's a special one. Um, I, well, I don't often come out here to the gardens anymore. No, it's not a place I frequent, honestly. It's been perhaps half a year or so since my last visit alone. I love the flowers. Ah, these. Well, it's a special variety, only grown in a few places in Morena. It has a certain special meaning. Well, perhaps that can be a lesson for next time. I can teach you the meanings of all the flowers in the gardens. Not to add on to your workload, but it might be a fun little lesson for you to partake in. But, I haven't had much time to simply just sit and be as I am. It is good to do sometimes. The gardens help to calm me when I am troubled. I quite needed the break to just sit out here. It might sound silly, but I come out here just to breathe. It helps to keep the buzzing away. Well, I don't really know how to describe it. It is just a frenzy of thoughts. When it gets too heavy, when it gets too busy and dark, that is when the buzzing happens. I can't concentrate or do anything at all. I just freeze up and shut down, and so I breathe. In addition to little walks. I know, it seems ridiculous, and it is quite silly, but it's a certain type of breathing. And it comes in handy, honestly. When you need to bark out orders or use an uncanny amount of magic. Well, since you don't use our magic, you wouldn't know. But there are quite severe drawbacks to using too much at once. For example, when you use dark magic, just a bit, your brain tends to buzz a little. And when you use an extreme amount, well, the drawback is losing your mind. Going insane. Essentially trapping yourself in your own magic. Well, I've never needed to go to an extreme like that. It's just a function of balance from the god's gifts. So, breathing helps. Do you want to try it? Well, I know you don't have magic. I mean, breathing to help you in general. To calm your emotions. When you're nervous or frustrated. You know? It could be very beneficial. Before you kick off, just try it. Whether it works or not, well, you'll just have to see. Just try it. Now, I'm sure you don't often think about it, since our bodies tend to do it for us, but just try and take a deep breath, whatever you think that means. But consciously think about it. through your nose, nice and deep. Inhale for 3 seconds, and then exhale through your nose as well. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Now, put a hand on your chest. Trust me, I'm not making you do anything strange. Okay. Again. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. There is a point to all this. You might have noticed that your chest rises and that your shoulders move up. Well, really try and notice it. Okay? Again. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. There. See? You're breathing from your chest. It's a bit shallow and not deep or from your core. Now, what I want you to do instead is breathe from your stomach. I know it might not make any sense, but trust me. Okay, so put a hand on your stomach and the other on your chest. Okay, let me explain. Okay, imagine while you inhale that you're expanding a balloon inside of your stomach. You're filling it up with air that you're breathing in. Inhale through your nose for 3 seconds, and then you're going to deflate the balloon. Push the air out with your muscles gently, and you'll blow the air out your mouth for 3 seconds instead of your nose. And try not to move your shoulders or chest. And, well, you could do this either sitting or lying on the ground, but since you're upright already, let's try it. Through the nose, out the mouth. You're filling a balloon and pushing out a nice and deep breath. Ready? All right then. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. See? If you did it right, your chest won't move too much. It might feel a little funny at first, but that's how to take a real deep breath from your core. If you ever feel like things are too busy or too hectic or too stressful, just take a moment to breathe in and out for a minute or two. No, it doesn't need to be long at all. Just 5 minutes is good. Even 1 minute of deep breathing will be beneficial. Just deep from your core. Center yourself and allow yourself to just be. It might not work for you, but sometimes it really does help. Dismiss it if you wish to, but your heart tends to calm itself when you take a quick moment or two. Just for yourself. Where did I learn this from? Well, my mother. She taught me how to breathe. She was always stressed out and anxious about every little thing. And to get herself ready for whatever task was at hand, she'd take a few deep breaths before completing what was before her. So I do it now too. But, there are other techniques if you'd like to try them. I'll write them down for you later. I could leave it by your room. It's no trouble. Yes, though I am rather busy. I don't mind doing this for you. I don't. I promise. If this helps you, I have no problem doing anything at all. Well, I am tired. This new job of mine runs me ragged. Indeed. I am always across the border, dealing with so many ridiculous things that do my head in. But some things are worth it, you know? It has been 2 weeks now, hasn't it? See, I meant to find you in the morning, but I was called away to a meeting with Leo. I figured I could just meet you in the evening or the next day, whenever was possible, really, before I left again. And, well, if you had even wanted to see me. Of course you didn't. Surely. But I'm glad that you caught me here. I haven't been checking in as much as I should have, and I wanted to ask how the past 2 weeks have been. Oh, is that right? Still enjoying your lessons then? I wasn't sure if you'd like it. But I'm glad that you do. Did you study much back then in Rezoa? Ah, is that so? Some of this must be new information then. Well, there is much knowledge to be learned, and hopefully you won't get too bored. You know, Uncle often writes me detailed reports on your results. And he's noticed you're quite the curious student. He does wish you'd spoke more during normal conversations with him, but at least you're trying to be sociable, I think. I'd understand why you wouldn't be, but it's not like that's too much of a problem, especially with him. He isn't the best with his words either, but he tends to over-explain when he's especially interested. I do think having him enter the academy so young did a number on him. Well, he must quite like you then. He enjoys complaining about the silliest things, but he's quite the soft man. Even toward an unruly brat like you. He loves to dote on people with snacks. He acts like a grandfather, but he's only 5 or so years older than I am. I think he must have a whole separate house for various snacks and food, considering how much Lord Vesper cherishes him. Well then, what snacks did he reward you with? Ah, I see. That isn't my favorite, but I hope you enjoyed the treat nonetheless. I don't really like milk sweets anymore, but I enjoyed dark chocolate quite a bit. It's a bit bitter, but better than overly sugary snacks. They give me a headache sometimes. Though I think in part it's because I'm getting older, and my body finds too much sugar disagreeable. Hey, I'm only a year or two older than you are, right? Ugh, fine. Insult me if you like, but I am not an old hag. I mean, I don't have any wrinkles. Do I? Oh, stop messing around with me. Anyway, have you been talking to more people? Apart from me and my uncle? Is that right? How are Erica and Annalise treating you? Good. I was hopeful that they'd managed to warm up to you a little. Not that I had much doubt. They're quite the friendly girls. Oh? I'm glad you've been trying to be more kind to them as of late. I didn't appreciate the attitude you had toward them originally, but I'm sure they were very standoffish as well. Still, though, those girls deserve all the kindness in the world, and I do hold them very highly. Is it odd? It's not as if they were beneath me, and those two never mistreated me either, unlike some other staff. Mother's handmaidens were ruthless. But with those two, we have a mutual respect for one another. More akin to friends than anything else. But, without a doubt, they are precious to me. And, well, conversing with them is quite the bit of fun. All the palace servants are quite a wild bunch from what I hear. I'm sure you must have heard plenty of rumors yourself. It's very entertaining, at least. But rumors are also quite useful at times. It spreads like a wildfire. Really? Well, then, seems like I have missed quite a bit since I've been gone. Very juicy tidbit. No need to catch up. The Taros, Dai, and Cyril, huh? So, that boy has finally returned. Ah? Oh, he is the son of one of the prominent houses in Citus, and little Lady Dia is his betrothed. She is from House Iron. You might have seen Taurus around. He's part of Era's guard, though I'd say he's more of a babysitter. But he is also Vittoria's little brother. Speaking of, have you talked to her much? Well, before she left for Clarus, I suppose. Ah, well, do not be too bothered by it. I'm sure she is not ignoring you out of spite or anything like that. She's an extremely busy woman, and she tends to be rather, well, short and tunnel-visioned when it comes to anything other than her work and brother and Leo. I think I should actually probably arrange some time for all of us to meet, actually. That does remind me. I heard from Leo this morning that you've been having a few conversations here and there. Oh? Well, I'm not really surprised that he'd come up to you like that. He likes to be involved in everyone's business. Well, he is without a doubt the most mischievous brother that I have. Oh, certainly. Livius is a pain. He is a brat, but Leo, he's cunning, calculative. Livius doesn't care very much about much. He's carefree. Leo is far from it, despite his demeanor. He's rather positive, isn't he? It's like staring into the sun every time you speak to him. Overwhelming, to be sure. And, well, he's honestly a little stressed ball of a person. But he's good to have in your corner. He listens. He offers practical advice and is well equipped to help you when you're in need. He's an interesting fellow. I think you'll get to know him better as time goes on. I also heard from him, though, that you and Anium speak. From time to time, anyway. Oh, yes. He's certainly a man of little words, even less than you, but he's quite surprisingly silly and fun sometimes, if you've noticed. It makes sense that Era fell for the earnest goofball. Well, he's not the brightest of lights, but he is good at judging others. Perhaps he was also blessed by the gods, and was given a keen sense of nature. But I think he could just tell alone that you weren't malicious, really. Not anymore. Despite your outbursts and whining, like me, he mustn't think you're absolutely terrible. I'm glad, though. Very glad. Well, you're finally speaking to others. It's important to do so. Being all alone can be tiresome. Oh, by the way, has Livius... Yes. Well, I hope you do understand why that might be so. Why he hasn't spoken to you. I think he has a right to be angry with you. He's fiercely protective over Thienna, and will always feel angry over your treatment of her. I know it was not your intention, but even the truest and well-meaning of intentions do not always come across that way to everyone else. Not everyone can be so forgiving of the actions you took. He is well aware that you were forgiven by Thienna. And I think he knows that she forgave you long ago. But that does not mean he will. I talked to him afterward and gave him a big scolding. But even I have to understand him somewhat. If your lover was being threatened by someone else, nearly kidnapped, well, I suppose you do know what that feels like. Somewhat. My words were of little use, though. I know. But my brother's opinion is not a matter to worry about. When, or rather, if he forgives you, will simply be up to your own actions from here on out. And, well, however his heart feels, you cannot force forgiveness out of him. You cannot please everyone, after all. Still, though, you were very brave for apologizing. Not everyone can own up to what they have done, that they've hurt others out of their own selfishness. I'm sure Livia saw it as well. The sincerity and pain, your true colors, that is what truly matters. I hope it was a little relieving for you, too. I know in some ways it must have been troublesome for your heart. And I know it is a difficult subject, but I think we should probably talk about it a little more. Explore more of those feelings. It helped the last conversation, did it not? And, well, I've been wondering about a few things. regarding your thoughts about the whole ordeal. And I also wanted to speak my mind on how I felt. If that's okay to explore with you, that is. May I, then? Well, it brought me a lot of anger to see and learn of how you treated her. And if Vienna ever decides to speak to you about it, I'm sure she would say the same thing. You claimed her, as if she was your own. She felt like an escape for you rather than a friend. Your obsessive letters and your outbursts often gave her troubles as well. It was a difficult relationship to maintain. It was like she was an object. A desire made simply out of desperation and not love. Not the way it should be. It is understandable. Anyone in a dark place who's been outcast and ostracized, they do things they wouldn't otherwise. But it doesn't justify your actions. Because of this, I thought you were like your brother. I made my judgment too quickly, I admit. And I apologize for succumbing to my anger. I should have maintained my composure those first few weeks. I hurt you when I should have been helping. I was awful. Truly. I regret it. I could have made this process so much easier, but I didn't. I was immature. I was demeaning, degrading, and I was just... I don't know who I was back there. I was just angry. I was just so angry. We were both rather, well, hurtful, weren't we? So, do you think of her as yours still? That is true. She's in a relationship with Livius now. But remember that she belongs to no one. Not even Livius. She is her own person, with her own desires. You did have quite the obsession with her, though. It took over your life, didn't it? I saw the letters you sent to her. It seemed like you could think of nothing except for her. You're filled with so much longing and hope. But what did you actually want with her? Was it a pure and loving relationship with Diana? Or was it just someone to be there in your time of need? I see. Love, affection, and companionship are all wonderful things, but if you simply pursued Vienna just for the sake of obtaining affection. Any affection. Well, it isn't fair for her, is it? It just seems like to me she would have been used by you as a coping strategy. The thought of being with Vienna wasn't fueled by the friendship you both held, but by your malnourishment of a true and real connection. I just think that you took the friendship she gave you for granted. I'm not trying to lecture you. Well, I don't know. The want for a relationship isn't wrong, but when you choose to pursue a person simply for affection alone, well, I just don't think it's fair. Adept, I know this is uncomfortable, but you need to take this conversation seriously. If you don't understand why you're doing something, you won't be able to break through the cycle. I understand if you want to end the conversation here, but I do think it's important. We can continue another time. Are you sure? Okay. Well, did you ever think about how the relationship would be for Vienna if you two had gotten together? How you would be able to treat her and provide for her? But a relationship doesn't fix everything, does it? Why did you think that? That simply having a lover would make everything okay? Oh, Adept. Another person can't complete you. They can't fix you. You're already whole. You are perfectly whole. Someone else's affections won't fix your heart forever. Vienna was never the solution to all your problems. I think you simply needed people around you to push yourself, to help yourself. She wasn't perfect, Adept. I just don't think you truly knew her. I really don't. You put her on a pedestal, and she has flaws, you know? Everyone has them. If she had disappointed you, then what? If she wasn't enough, if she didn't say everything you wanted to hear, what then? If she wasn't everything you thought she would be, would you start all over? Seek out another person? Try to fix her to your liking? No. It would be the same thing all over again. And putting so much pressure onto someone else to fix your problems, that isn't good for anyone. I mean, look at what happened to you. You tortured yourself. You treated yourself horribly, as if you fell deeper and deeper into your fantasy. Then, when you realized that she didn't return your affections, you snapped. You acted out on your fantasy and crossed a boundary. Your love for someone shouldn't take over your life, Adept. And when you do find someone else to love, they shouldn't make up for everything you didn't have. Having another person by your side helps to advance your life, but it isn't everything. Perhaps this need was born out of the lack of what you had as a child. I'm sure Queen Miro did nothing to help you after your mother had passed. I didn't know that she... I'm sorry. No child should ever hear those words. You are not guilty for her death. You are not. Look at me. You deserve a space here on Morena. Miro lied to you for years on end. She neglected you and hurt your feelings over and over again. She took advantage of the grief you had. She'd give you love and then take it away and outcast you and ostracize you. Especially after your father died. It was all taken away from you. With your mother's death and your father's absence, you sought what you could get. What you were missing. That love, that feeling of belonging and comfort. What you were missing. You sought desperately from her and Vienna. I think I understand. You didn't want to be wrong. You wanted to blindside yourself, to stay in your fantasies, but you can't find peace in them. You can't, Adept. They're not real after all. And when you return to your reality, all you'll be left with is the ache of loneliness that you don't want to fix or work on because you can escape back to your daydreams of false hope. But you can never form a real connection with anyone if you continue down this path. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that you've had to cope through your heart like this. It's unhealthy for you and everyone else. I'm sorry that you've been deprived of love and real care. That it's made you act out and do horrible things. I'm sorry that you don't believe you can be truly loved anymore. But you know, feeling embarrassed, ashamed by it, regretting what you did is growth. You were courageous apologizing to her. You were facing the reality, at least acknowledging that you did hurt Vienna. It's a start. To understand why you did what you did. To understand what effect you had on others because of it. No, we can't fix things in a single conversation. But it's important that we did talk about it. And even if it wasn't good, I'm glad to have learned a little more about you. And perhaps, when you're comfortable, we can talk more about your life in Reizoa. You know, you've become so much brighter in recent days. But sometimes I get worried. Because I can still see that you are pulling away from me. When I speak to you, sometimes it just feels like you're really far away. I know that look. I've made it plenty of times myself. It hasn't been that long, after all. Since the war. Since you've learned to live here. I'm sure it's a lot to process. And it will take a while to come to terms with all of it. And even after having, well, your life, albeit unhappy, ripped away from you, it's a big change. I understand. It's hard to deal with all the guilt. Acknowledging everything that you've lost. All the wrongs you may have done. I know it isn't easy. This entire situation hasn't been the best for anyone. You still don't trust me, right? I can see it in your body language. Sometimes you tense up before you say certain things. You look away. You have a few other cues. Though, I suppose that you trust me a little more now. I don't find anything wrong about it. I can't expect you to trust me or like me immediately or ever. You might hate me, and I'm okay with that. As long as you get better. I'm sorry. Again. I know I was entirely too harsh on you for the first weeks of your stay here, and I've hurt you, and I can't make up for that. But I can be better, and I've tried to be. And I hope that with time and enough open and free conversations, we'll be able to come to a better understanding. At least, I'm willing to try and get there with you. I hope you'll try and get there with me too. But, most of all, I just want you to try. I don't want you to feel hopeless. I know that life has handed you a terrible card, but that doesn't mean you can't change your future from here on out. I can see that there is a darkness that still plagues you. I might not truly understand the circumstances from which your pain come from. I can never know what it truly felt like. But I certainly know what it feels like when you think there's nothing left for you. When your perception of reality has shattered. When life torments you and you feel absolutely defeated. I know. I know all too well. Even if it's not the same sort of situation. I don't know if you've gone through the same sort of feelings as I have. But there were days where I truly wish that I could be gone from Marina. I wish that I didn't exist. That I could have never existed. It felt like I was a mistake. That everything I did amounted to nothing. And that everything I did was wrong. I wondered what purpose I even truly held. Everything I had worked for was nothing more than a hopeful lie. I thought perhaps if I was gone it would solve everything. That everything I did would be undone. No more pain. No more anguish. No more disappointing other people. No more disappointing myself. There were days where I wish the pain and the hollow parts of my heart could just disappear. That I could just disappear. I'm okay. It's still a bit of a fragile subject. I try to be so strong sometimes, but even this sort of thing, remembering the things that hurt me still make me shed a tear or two. I was busy. Even busier than this. Emotionally, I was grieving heavily. I was confused and anxious and guilty and conflicted. When I had finally become determined to get rid of my mother, I felt guilty beyond reason. I knew it was the right thing to do. And I still felt horrible. Part of it was my love for her. I loved my mother. I was so hopeful that she'd go back to the way she was. Both me and Livius were hopeful. But Livius was never as optimistic as I was, despite everything. Everything she did to me. I just wanted our families to be happy again. But I had a duty to Pencos, and I couldn't wait any longer. Not after this. If it had only affected me, maybe I would have let it continue. Maybe I wouldn't have turned her in, but I had to protect our empire, to protect the people in it. She had gone too far. And after the deed was finally done, I felt so I felt so angry at myself. Maybe I could have stopped her earlier. It took me so long to give up. And I had to take on all of her duties and share the work with Leo. I was glad he was there, but I felt like it was so much for both of us. I felt so tired staring at the piles of documents on my desk. I had to fix all her messes. But even then, it was far too late. Her schemes had helped drag us into a useless war, and I was far too young. Livius was too young. Leo was too young. You were far too young. Of course, I was used to doing a bit of work here and there, but nothing like this. I had essentially become regent while Leo was off on the battlefield. We hadn't had any conflict like this within the living lands in over 500 years. There was simply so much, all at once. I felt horrible, seeing the victims of the war fleeing across the border, seeing the fatigued faces of the army, hearing testimonies from everyone involved, seeing them myself. Warming cold bodies and trying to do anything I could. It truly felt like the world was crashing down before my feet, and I felt absolutely useless. All I wanted to do most nights was curl up on my bed and rot there till I was nothing more than bone. And while I made my mistakes, many of them, I felt like nothing I'd ever do was right. I felt like I'd always be alone, like I should and deserved to be, atoning for everything I had done. Well, it wasn't really the right way to go about it. And I still make mistakes, even now, but they don't bother me as much. I don't put as much weight behind it anymore. Not to say that I'm negligent or anything like that, of course. I own up to it, even if it takes a little time to. But during the course of the war, I struggled very, very much. It sounds silly, but I was just so young. And you were just a boy. Not even old enough to inherit the crown. We were both forced to grow up a little too quickly, I think. I felt like a hollow, empty husk most days. It started off slow and dragged me down till I was drowning. It certainly felt suffocating. I didn't have many choices. You know, I had always been fond of music and dancing, and I had a small music box in my room, and I would listen to it before bed most nights. It was the same tune my mother used to sing to me when I was little. Something like... Something like that. Anyway, I slowly lost all feeling. I could no longer feel joy listening to my favorite tunes. I didn't like music anymore, and I hated dancing. I felt so tired. The gentle and serene feeling it used to fill my heart with was gone. I would sob my eyes out because I had become so numb, so unfeeling. They were my greatest joys, the things that kept me sane. They were gone. Despite how desperate I became for the call to eternal sleep, I couldn't do it. I was broken, but not quite. I still got up, though it was difficult. I ate food to keep my stomach content, and I read and signed every paper required of me. I kept going. I realized that in part it was I who kept myself there, in that dark, numb mindset. It wasn't my fault, of course. It's just the way I thought. It was the way I felt. The sadness felt comfortable. It felt good. And even without my mother there, unkind words were still thrown at me. But it was myself. I was the one insulting myself and tearing myself down. I needed to forgive myself. I needed to stop guilting myself over what I had done, how I had been complicit. I was always going to be ashamed, of course. But it gave me motivation to be better. To try and be better. Even if it was only one step at a time. After wallowing in my despair for so long, I didn't want to keep crying or being angry at myself or the world. It had tried to drag me down, but I wouldn't let it. I had already fought against that darkness for years on end. And I would keep fighting. But now, for good moments and good days, even if there weren't many. And, in part, I was trying to be strong for my family and for myself. I know that I was still their sister, and despite everything, they still loved me. For a while, I had thought that Livius had abandoned me, leaving myself to be cornered. But in truth, he loved me. He would visit me in the middle of the night, bring me gifts, and beg to take me away. And for some reason, I refused him. So, he loved me. He really did. And feel as if I truly left, I don't know how he would feel. I can't imagine life without him. Even if we bicker, even if he's an annoying little brat, my heart hurts to even think of it. And, well, I did not fear the pain so much as I feared the regret I might feel when I was to take my final breaths. That I could do nothing to reverse my decision. That once I took that final step, I could not turn around. It is the final clarity that scares me to my bones. Knowing that I could do a little more, that it was not unfixable, that I was not unfixable. I was not a lost cause. Perhaps I would feel relief, perhaps I wouldn't. But I wanted to keep my head above water a little longer. To see what else I could do, to try again. And while I think for certain things, even if I made mistakes, it was better to try than to never do anything at all. Even if I had setbacks, I could keep trying again. You can always do something new and alter course. And perhaps it is that optimistic side of me that kept on going, that didn't let myself give up. There are infinite possibilities after all. And a single action could change the entire future. It's funny, really. When my friends and family spoke to me of how it wouldn't always be this way, I didn't believe them. I pushed them away. I couldn't imagine life without the constant fear and sadness. All my optimism had died out. But now I understand. And I'm not perfect, of course. There are still days when I am haunted by my past. It taunts me in the dark corners of my room and my mind. Or I cry my eyes out and I claw at my chest because I cannot breathe. But still, it just comes and goes now, instead of being a constant. I know now that there are still beautiful days and little things that bring me joy, and it's not all terrible. I just have to look for the good things, instead of wallowing in the bad. Like these flowers. These are little things that bring me joy. And the sunset makes me happy. I've spent enough time healing myself that I can hear music again. It finally brings me joy. And I love to dance. It's only been a year or so, though, since the last call for eternal sleep. And I hope to increase that time. And, well, I also hope that you will heal. You might heal much differently from me, but still, I have so much hope. And that is why I reached my hand to you. I see infinite possibilities in you. I can see through your colors that you are still conflicted. And it will take time to gain your trust, to find your bearings. But I am willing and happy to talk and listen to you and your woes. I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. You must understand that at the heart of it all, you are good inside, deep down. Through all the reds and blues, I believed you were worth saving. Not only me, but Leo, the church, the Yenna. It is true. That is why you are here now. You might hate me for it, hate us for it, but you deserved another chance. Even if others don't believe so, even if you don't believe it yourself, but I didn't think you deserved to die. You were but a boy when the world came crashing down on you. You weren't even of age to take the crown for yourself yet. So your stepmother used you to take power for herself and her own child of blood. You were misguided, and so was I. You were a victim in this false war. Toxic and heinous things were whispered in your ear. And of course you needed to take accountability, but not so harsh as death. You may have been afraid, scared to act, but at the same time when the walls were collapsing around you, while the gates were forced open, you stood your ground and stayed. While your brother and mother ran and hid. A part of that good I saw in you remained. So that is why I couldn't allow you to die for your stepmother's crimes. I know you didn't want to be here. I know you didn't want to be engaged to me. But none of us could allow it. So I'm sorry. I think you are truly a man with a good heart and passion. You are just misguided. That is why I believe that with more time, you will make a good king. You are someone who feels deeply connected to your people. When they suffer, you do too. I know you are still processing it all, accepting what has happened to you, to all of us. Take that time and understand it. I will be here, as will others who wish to help you in your kingdom. There were people around me, thankfully, who truly wished to help me, to allow me to bloom into who I am today. Despite the fears and what my mother had hammered into me, I reached out. And they did too. I took their hands, after years and years of refusing. I'm still broken, but I am healing, stronger than ever before, happier. By no means am I perfect, but I work every day to do at least one good thing. One good thing for others and for myself. It takes a lot of time and effort, but day by day it gets a little bit easier, and trust me, it really does. I truly just want to help you, not to debilitate you. You really mean a lot to me. You really do. I know our only bond is this engagement, but apart from that, as a person, separate from all our roles and titles and political bonds, I care for you as a person. As another living creature of Morena's blood. I know I hurt you. I know. I hurt you. I yelled at you and I belittled you and I made you angry and frustrated But it doesn't mean it isn't wrong and that I don't regret it. You know, if I truly wished to take power from you, I would have already. Why play the long and slow game if it's all in my hands? If I didn't wish the best for you and your kingdom, I would have joined hands with the Elder Council long ago. I could have not spoken a word to you and let you rot in that cell, but I did not wish that upon you. I too know what it feels like to be trapped in a dingy and damp cell just like you. I was there for far too long. But being in a cage was not meant for me, and it is not where you belong either. Hostility between our regions, between us, that is not what I aim for. And I'm sure it is not what you want either. I want peace between our lands, to focus on the real threat of this world. We have no more time to bicker between our countries. We must join hands and stop the undead from treading upon our lands and stopping whatever is happening in the Shroud. I truly just want to help you. Your kingdom, the innocent, many of us too. You know that we all have good and bad thoughts, and it is simply what we decide to take hold and drive us. You were trying to do the right thing in your twisted mind. You can acknowledge that now. So do the right thing and help rebuild your kingdom. Forgive yourself most of all. You can change. I know you can. If you just try, Adept, reach out and try. Please, don't push us away completely. Look forward instead of back. You are no longer living in your past. War is over and done, and we rebuild, as all the living do. It will never be pleasant. It is not easy. But don't give up. Do not be afraid. You can't quit just because you might fail. It might take months, years, but with the right people and help, the drive to be better, you'll become the king you want to be to your people. A king who fights among his people, who has courage to stand in the flooded fields alongside them. Don't turn your back anymore. Pride and ego does not give way to results. It is not action or true strength. Please, have a little hope in your heart. I will still reach out my hand to you. I will try for you. I know you might still have a deep rage in your heart, but even so, if you wish to burn me, do it. I'll still be there time and time again. If you want to break my heart, if you want to burn me, give me more scars, then do it. I will not give up on you. Even when I am charred by you, my hand will still be outstretched for you to try again. I will burn for you. I will. I promise. Take time to heal, to breathe, and I will be there as your ally. I care for you, even when I know it sounds crazy and stupid, but I do. I understand you might also have those fears and doubts. You might not be quite ready yet, but like I said, you have the potential to be a wonderful leader. And it will take time, as well as experience actually leading. You've been taking lessons to understand the history behind our regions, to understand the culture and economy and environment on a broader level. In addition, you've been making good connections with several people who will give you support and resources. Reading reports and summations also give you in-depth detail for what's happening, who's moving where and what's moving when, where the money is going and how it is being used. It is basic but necessary to make decisions. You need context, and slowly you've been building up this knowledge. And that, without a doubt, will help you to be a good king. Of course, being a morally righteous leader does not always make a good kingdom. You are part of a puzzle. An unstable country with a good person at the top will still fail. Those in the Elder Council want wealth and power for themselves while stepping on the backs of their suffering clans. But soon enough, perhaps they will realize it will only backfire. People are the backbone of all your power, and you must support them. Rebuild their villages, provide them food, ease of buying land, and much, much more. The people have faith in your connection to the gods, but that is not all it will take to gain the support of them. I believe that you will need more experience on the ground, to actually be amongst the people, to understand what they have suffered from after the war, to help relieve some of that suffering. That way, you are not just some faceless heir, or a useless one. So they know that you truly have remorse and wish to bring back normality to their lives. After all, they haven't known much else. All in all, this will help you to make decisions for future policies and laws. And, well, I will be heading to Clarus soon again. I will be there for a few months. Touring the kingdom. Attending to various issues as well, but I believe it would be a good time to invite you there. To come with me, of course. I hope that this trip will help you to see your country with full clarity, with your own eyes. And well, you need not make your decision now. I will be leaving in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And well, I can tell you more about the trip if you'd like. But how about we talk about it over some lunch? My belly has started to groan and rumble, so I'd rather not have you be distracted by it. I'm sure you must be hungry as well, too. Well, you'd like to join me, of course. Right then. Let us go. Like I had said, we're only in our first few phases of recovery. It'll take more than a few months to completely rebuild, you know. You've got to be patient. Nothing happens instantly at the snap of my fingers, nor yours. Well, this is one of the more better off villages. The war did not take too much from it, and the blight had run through it months prior. Food is still more on the scarce side, though. Despite the extra rations provided, it has still been difficult. Some of the clans have happily distributed food to their people, but like I mentioned a while back, some were suspected of hoarding supplies. We've investigated and have taken measures now to return food to the people, but even that takes time. Of course, we've also dealt them punishment in accordance with the church's guidance. The food issues have been one of our main problems, but that is why it has been so integral to rebuild and create more educational institutions. It does seem like a separate issue, doesn't it? Well, all of the systems work with one another in some way, and by working together, it makes our food distribution issues much easier. Let me explain. Since education is compulsory across all kingdoms, it has managed to remove extra pressure from parents. During their time in school, obviously they're given education, a better grasp on knowledge and various topics, time to rest and play, to socialize. And they receive morning and afternoon meals, all in one place. Meaning, parents really only need to provide them dinner. And, well, maintaining a positive and good school environment involves multiple staff and different resources all across Marana. Hence why it's been important to build even more facilities across Clarus. Better and improved establishments that allow students to be in much less overcrowded classrooms. Easier access in more rural areas, which also means more places to distribute food from. A place of normality in this war-torn country. Of course, the educational systems haven't been our only focus. Vittoria and Lange have been of great help as well. Health services are more widely available now. Plenty of people were injured and riddled by disease. And especially during the war and the months after, seeking out healers was difficult and expensive. There was a large lack of access, but that is no longer the case. Duke Reese as well, if you remember him. Do you remember him? Citus. It manufactures a large amount of textiles and clothing. And Citus has been working with many regions like Ladle to create care packages with lightweight clothes and socks and bandages and food and medicine. I think I'm going to have to ask Uncle to quiz you on the different exports again, though. But write that down in case you forget. Well, you'll need all this information in a year's time, when the Council of Estrella meets once more to discuss the new treaty. Well, of course you'd be there. If you're to be the new leader, we need your input as well. I will discuss with you later, though, the finer details of that meeting. Perhaps when we are in Rezoa. However, that is why you needed to see all of this. To truly understand. To be more grounded and knowledgeable of your people. And also to take notes. Well, I thought that this first stop would be rather important. I'm not sure you realize it by now, but children, they hold a dear place in my heart. They are the victims of the war, warped by violence and displaced by their families, sometimes abandoned. At the end of the war, many of the remaining orphanages were in extremely poor condition. Hence, we've been building more and renovating old ones. We want the children to be as comfortable as they can, as they grow and while they wait for their loved ones to come back. If they come back. Many families were displaced, especially when the borders to Clarus closed. Many family members were stuck outside of Clarus and inside. It was difficult. But Additionally, well, our team here made a important discovery. So we need to stop here for a while. Yes. Oh, and see, it has been gated and guarded to protect the children from danger. Yes, despite the lack of blight in the area, it is still needed. We never know. If it gets in, the result would be catastrophic, since they are so vulnerable. And there are other dangers that have, well, become more frequent as a result of the war. But anyway, let us head in. I timed our arrival around the children's nap time, just so we could be a bit more discreet. Well, Lady Nora, the keeper of this place, is likely busy in her office. I would have her greet us, but she enjoys being overly formal. You'll see later tonight, and it takes quite a while, and I'd rather not waste any more time. It is rather strange, though, since she is quite the rebellious spirit. Anyhow, I have notified her beforehand, so it is not a complete surprise that we are here. Also, the children at this place are a rather rowdy bunch, full of energy. There is one little girl in particular, named Fleur. She is quite attached to me. Well, she's quite the sweet child. Her mother was lost in the war during a battle, and her father disappeared one night after a trip to the market. She was taken in by her neighbor and raised there for a while, but she couldn't afford to keep her there forever, so she was sent here. She has a few relatives Nora has managed to find, and they intend on taking her in soon. But we are making sure that they have the proper provisions. And once Fleur leaves, she'll be visited by staff once in a while, just to ensure that she is safe and happy. Well, yes, that is the normal procedure, I believe. At least one that we plan on rolling out. It is implemented very firmly here. Yes. I too hope she lives a good life. One that can be filled with joy again. But this story is quite similar to the rest. Many of their parents and guardians were killed in battle or lost. Many abandoned their own children since they could not afford to feed them. Though I'm glad many of them are able to flourish here. Some children, however, were not even lucky enough to be deferred into an orphanage. As of now, there are still many who live on the streets, and are dying on them too. We are doing our best to find them and to take them in. Though, compared to the amount of children, there are not enough buildings to house them in. Many are still in the process of construction and will take a few more months before we're able to give them a proper home. Oh, well, for the time being, at some school facilities, there is temporary housing there. It is not the best, but it is the best we can do, at least with the amount of time and budget we have. We're also having a difficult time finding caretakers, but the wage for the job has increased quite a bit, so we're hoping that will motivate some qualified individuals. Oh, Lady Nora is from the Leperide clan. Her husband had abandoned her because of her activity during the war. Well, no, she was not a traitor. She just used her home as a safe haven for families on the run away from battle. And for those who wished to escape to other parts of Morena. Clarus just simply wasn't safe anymore. It was also a home for those who were displaced. She even allowed a part of her home to become a makeshift hospital for Knights of all Kingdoms. She took on much work taking care of many abandoned children, so we felt she was rather qualified for such a large facility as this. She has practice handling finances and delegating tasks. She also has a kind and very pure heart, looking out for the living, no matter which side. You can meet the rest of the staff at a later time, learn what they witnessed, get to actually know them. It is fine. They won't hate you. They've gotten used to me, and you know how I am. They'll get used to your hopefully temporary haughty attitude as well. Ah. Right. Well, how do I... A team in Clarus had made a discovery. Now, I ask that you try and calm yourself. I think you understand what I'm talking about then. Don't make a loud commotion. Yes, she is alive. Just asleep. It is her nap time too. Anissa is well, I assure you. I know. I'm sorry I withheld this information from you. I had to keep this quiet. And if you had known that she was at death's door, well, I don't think that added pressure would have been good for you. I wanted her to be in stable condition, so that at least you wouldn't need to crouch over her bed, not knowing if she would ever wake again or not. I know you must be angry with me, but she needed time to recover with no disturbances. And she has been here for nearly 2 months now. She was found wandering in the woods by an area afflicted with blight. She was practically skin and bone. She had matted hair and she was incoherent and, well, she hasn't completely recovered, but she is back on her feet. And she has been talking and, well, interacting with other children for at least the past 2 weeks. I'm not sure the exact details, but she fled through the tunnels under Rezoa. Miro had apparently sent her separately. And she had traveled on foot for months, and she got by thanks to the kindness of strangers, though she tried her best to evade people, generally. We only found her because she had collapsed. It seems like she was wandering toward a town, trying to find food again. But she has gotten the appropriate care and is making friends here, as far as I understand. Many of them visited her while she was bedridden, making her cards and little flower bouquets. I know that saying sorry and telling you any of this doesn't make it better that I hid it from you. But I did what I believed was best. She will likely wake soon. I will leave you two to catch up. I apologize. Again. Huh? My prince. Adept. You sought me out? Did you have a good conversation with Anissa? I hope that it's brought you a little ease to see how she's recovered. I'm glad you two have finally reunited. I understand how you could come to that conclusion. Or rather ask why. Why I didn't use her against you, but I promise you, I would never do such a thing. I would never use Anissa against you. I may not have been the most moral of creatures all my life, but no. Of course not. I would not harm her. It might seem in my nature to. After all, if Queen Despina had taught me anything, it would be very easy to bring you to your knees, to have you beg for mercy, to have you completely under my thumb. With Anissa in the palm of my hand, I could have easily tortured you. But like I said, I am not my mother. I am not her pawn anymore. I might make mistakes here and there. They might be the wrong thing. But I know well enough not to do that, not to her. Besides, it is not how I want to attain peace. Anissa is just a child. I could not do that again. I could not harm another one. I wouldn't be able to bear it. She is so young. She has nothing to do with her mother's crimes. She was unfairly brought into this war, so no. Of course. I had no grudge toward her. It would be silly to. It would be awful of me, a waste of emotions. You can be wary of me as much as you'd like to, but trust that I would never put a child in harm's way. I mean it. I truly am not that evil. I am not that cruel. I could never shed a child's blood for my own goals, no. I want the best for you, for your sister, for everyone. I am not simply vying for power. Everyone has suffered so much. Not just Clarus, but Benkos, Atticus, the church, Morena. We've all fought for too long. The people are in need of desperate relief and hope, and I would not play with that for a mere crumb of power. They are grieving and suffering still. They are fatigued beyond understanding. I care. I care so much that I cannot stand it, nor use that grieving to my advantage. Clarus has been very damaged over the course of the war, and before this, we held such a long-standing peace, thanks to the work of people like Empress Elise and Queen Grenlay and King Sylvanus. It was not uncommon to see Vorso and Storia and Human living together in villages and cities across all our kingdoms. But then the war changed that. Families were separated and your borders closed, and I bore witness to it quite closely. Perhaps you have not realized it yet, but the maids that attend to you, Annalise and Erica, well, they are of your kind and mine. They have lived in Pencos for many years, but still call Clarus their home. Their brother lived there. Yes. He was there with his family. His wife and children. As the war ramped up, his wife and children were able to make it across the border into O'Keegan. But he did not. He was caught in the war, stuck behind the borders of Clarus. And then he joined your army. He lived, thankfully, through all the terrible battles, although with wounds too deep to cure. Annalise's fiancé, however, was not so lucky. I had to console them for days and nights, weeks and months. There was so much grief and anger. Everyone has been affected by this war. I've seen it with my own eyes while on the ground here. I came here after the war, along with Vittoria. Disease ran rampant. There was a large lack of adequate facilities, and that led to so many civilian deaths. We tried our best with all the healers we could manage, but even then, there were so many horrors littered across the lands. War is too overglorified, oversimplified. No amount of words can truly document just how awful it is. It just simply lives in memories now. And those memories belong to you, and they belong to me, and they belong to everyone else in Morena. I wish to alleviate the pain of those memories and to give everyone a new goal, something to look forward to. Peace, safety, and joy. I, too, used to be blind to the needs of the common people, and that is why I wished for you to see it with your own eyes. You are in such a high position, you can never truly understand what they suffer. Even I cannot understand. But you can see it. You can learn of their troubles and pains and acknowledge it, understand what they go through, and do your duty to alleviate them. You know, my mother forced me into a blighted village. It was in Targathon. She had me stay there for days. I saw people die, their bodies cold and stricken with an affliction I could not fix. No matter how desperately I called their names, the light just faded from their eyes. You see, I have no affinity for the power of light. I cannot heal. I cannot do anything to get rid of it. I can warm. I can fix afflictions of too much magic. But I cannot get rid of blight. I tried. I really tried. But it just turned cold and frozen in my arms. Women and men of all ages, the elderly, children. I was useless. Mother tried to make it into a lesson. These people were beneath me. They were useless creatures to trample beneath my feet. They were susceptible to an ounce of kindness, all in exchange for their pride. But that is not what I learned. The living are full of fears. The unknown both causes us to flee, but it also causes us to band together, to help one another. I did not want to use their grief and pain to my advantage, even if my mother made me. They were never below me. I bled just like them. I cried just like them. I felt cold and miserable. But we all tried to survive together. They gave what they could to each other, just like the way those villagers would help your sister. Of course, I know that helping your people, part of it is gaining their trust. You have an objective, an ulterior motive. But I hope that along the way, you will also help them out of the goodness of your heart. That you do it simply for the sake of your citizens. Despite how small your actions might be, how annoying and tough they might be, it helped. Little by little. They'll remember you trying to find ways to make their lives a little easier, trying to find ways to enrich it. It is not weak, and it is not shameful to help your fellow countrymen who need it the most, even if it's small little things. You need not fight and be heroic in battle. Sometimes you just need to stand with them, stand beside them. They'll see your sincerity, the kindness that laces your voice, and the fire and passion in your eyes. See, I will never turn my back on the living again. And I hope you don't either. These children's bright smiles are what I wish to protect, to keep them safe, and to allow them to live in a time of peace and prosperity again. I will tell you time and time again, show you again and again what my true intentions are. Toward your kingdom and you. I just hope you don't hate me too much. Because I don't hate you at all. I hope that one day you too reach out to me. I care, Adept. I have always cared. No matter how awful I've been. I care about you. I see good in you. And maybe that is just my silly, optimistic nature coming into play, but it's true. I care for you, Adept. I really do. even if it seems like I shouldn't. Oh. Well, it seems like the evening bell is going off. The children will be getting ready to head to the dining hall soon, and I will be helping to serve the food, so I must leave the conversation here. There will be much more to talk about regarding your country in the weeks coming. I shall see you sometime later then. Hmm? Did you wish to come along? Well, yes. I'm sure we'd all be grateful. I will be passing out some milk and bread. Perhaps you can also serve their main meal? All you have to do is scoop some vegetable soup into their trays. I visited the kitchen earlier to see what it was. We will also sit with them and talk to them. This way you can also share a meal with your sister and her friends. I'm sure she would like that a lot. Well, let's hurry along then. The children can be rather ravenous. It is true. They won't settle down till their bellies are full and warm, and, well, during my last visit, you should have seen them. Before bedtime, they also get a small treat and then more milk. Only then do they get tired. But even so, they want to stay up. Indeed, they are quite well fed here.